Once a week, I used to tutor a third grader from Puebla, Mexico, named Daniel. His father, Roberto, we call him Beto, is a short, chubby little man I used to work with in a kitchen with a smile like a kid who just set a thumbtack on the teacher's seat. My nephew Tyler is also in third grade. He doesn't need a tutor. In fact, he recently won the school-wide spelling bee for his grade. You see, Tyler can spell resilience, but Daniel can describe it. They both have one thing in common, though. Their absolute favorite thing in the world to do is play video games. Or maybe two things in common, because they both have animated heroes. My nephew worships Spider-Man and the Hulk. I guess he dreams of climbing walls and showing off his giant green biceps. But Daniel, his hero isn't ripped, has no real superpowers, never steps into a phone booth to secretly slip into costume, and goes by an ordinary name. It's a me, Mario! Super Mario, to be exact. But there isn't much super about him. I mean, he's a plumber in overalls who eats flowers to give him the temporary ability to throw fireballs at pelicans with turtle shells, and conquers every dangerous level by jumping off a brick wall and sliding down a flagpole. Either way, he is plastered all over Daniel's walls in various goofy poses, and I could never understand why any kid would pick Mario to be his hero over the muscle-popping, web-slinging, slick costume-wearing Peter Parker. But then I realized that maybe for Daniel, that short, pudgy little plumber with no muscles and an accent as thick as his mother's tamales reminds him of his father. Working class, immigrant man still trying to get a grip on English between double shifts. He's never wielded a plunger, but knows what it's like to handle other people's shit, knows what it's like to climb a wall and leap for a flag they said was never his in the first place. So he threw a steaming handful of the desert aside like fireballs when he crossed Sonora on foot to come to work in the U.S. back when paradise was just a pair of dice, like an ivory box full of wishes placed before a firing squad of Minutemen and Border Patrol. He has no superpowers, no documents either, no social security number, and a third grade education like his son. So he pays me $25 a week to help his little boy become the student he never had the chance to be. But in a state where Daniel is not even considered a resident, the tuition may be a bigger barrier to cross than the border. And I wonder if I should still be teaching him to fish in a lake full of lava and lies, because I know that at 8 years old he can be anything he wants to be, except a college student. See, a decade ago, a bill called the DREAM Act was proposed to help immigrant minors achieve higher education, but every year, after the votes fall just short enough to make it seem like partisan villains really want to help their maids, janitors, and tomato pickers make it out of the field and into the classroom, the bill is rolled into a scroll and left to rot in the Dead Sea of false hope at the Capitol building, and Daniel's future is a montage of snapshots unseen, scrolled up like a roll of film picked from the pant pocket of divinity by a fallen angel and left in some shadowy corner of heaven he thought God would never look. But I remind Daniel, even the brightest and most brilliant of photographs have to develop in the darkness, unravel like red carpets onto the stage where the moon first dipped its face into the spotlight. And you, son, mijo, were born on a doorstep of midnight. And these days, they got a dozen deadbolts on the dawn. But your daddy, he started teaching you to pick those locks at the same time he taught you to tie your shoes and walk like the earth belongs to no one. One day, I arrived a little early for our tutoring session. Daniel was still playing Super Mario when his mother told him it was homework time. He whined and said he wanted to keep playing. A smirk bullet trained across my face, but her response derailed my smile in its tracks. She told him, "Mijo, tienes que estudiar, para que no seas como tu papá, haciendo el trabajo que los demás no quieren hacer. My son, you have to study, so you don't end up like your father, doing the work that no one else wants to." And I wanted to tell him no. Tell him your mother is a brick house guerrera, a woman that loves you enough to slit her own dignity's throat. And I know what she's trying to teach you, boy, but nah, mijo, you be just like your father. Learn to pick those locks like he taught you. Don't let any rules written by men tell you where you can roam on God's green earth. Let no Uncle Sandman tell you when you can dream. You pick the pieces of Sonora out of your eyes and replace them with little bits of revelation. And if a classmate or a store clerk or a coward with a badge of false courage ever calls you illegal, you remind them that a few decades back, the gutter used to be the border that kept black folk off the sidewalk, and you're just a couple shades lighter than slaves to them, but boy, you're a superhero to me, mijo. with a Mexican flag or a cape tied around your shoulders in the same knots your father taught you to lace your shoes with before you walked through a quicksand of flames that smelled like Ellis Island burning, fuck a phone booth and a disguise, telling your true identity in the middle of the street unashamed, sin vergüenza, breathe bilingual fire when you overhear the overseer's secrets in English and spit them back to the field hands in your mother tongue and your father's heart, and just know that one day you may find a brick house guerrera of a woman that will hold you as tightly as her courage, and maybe she will teach you to hold a son the same way. He will have his grandfather's smile and his mother's eyes, and if he ever doubts the fireballs in his palms, she will tell him, un día, mijo, vas a ser exactamente como tu papá. One day, my son, you're going to be just like your dad.